The elephant in the room is we're all a quarterback away, right? So we're going to do everything we can to acquire that and go about our business and do what we need to do to lock right in. And I'm going to attack that before you even ask me the question.
We know quarterback is a priority, but again, we have free agency, we have possible trades, and we have the draft. And we have to really assess every area and look at what's going to make the most sense for this team.
Welcome back, Falcons fans. Your boy Russell is back again for more Atlanta Falcons content. And today, I'm going to talk about some scenarios that have obviously been mentioned a lot within Falcons circles. Right now, you've heard a string of rumors around this team about what they may do at the quarterback position. And I'm going to break down each potential move they can make. And what I mean by that is I'm not going to necessarily break down the quarterback, so to say. Maybe a little bit of that, but not too much of that. I'm going to break down what would it mean if they did trade for Justin Fields, what that would mean if they did trade up for a quarterback, or if they decided to sign a veteran, and give my opinions on each particular move in terms of how this will impact and affect the team, and does it align with usually how Terry and Raheem want to be, because you're hearing them in the multiple interviews saying they want to be aggressive. So I'm going to go into each one, and we're going to start with the most popular one of the week that has been just completely all over social. And it really makes sense since it's Combine week and a lot of top execs, top scouts are in the same place. Justin Fields to Atlanta. That has obviously been something that has been mentioned for a very long time, not just offseason. Justin Fields potentially getting a fresh start with Chicago, looking like they will probably keep that first pick and draft Caleb Williams. Where does that leave Justin Fields? The Falcons' connection to Justin Fields is obvious because of the Atlanta connection. He's from a suburb in Atlanta. Obviously, he obviously has that natural hometown kid vibe to him if he was traded here. A lot of people think the move makes sense. They think Justin Fields, with Atlanta's weapons, can make him a better quarterback than what he's gotten in Chicago, which is what a lot of people believe, which is lack of coaching, lack of talent for the majority of the time. And obviously, he's had a new offense coordinator every year he's been in Chicago, so he's never had consistency. So the big thing really with that move is that move, if the Falcons decide to trade for Justin Fields, will probably make the most sense from a draft perspective and a money perspective. And what I mean by that is, if you trade for Justin Fields, a lot of the things you've been hearing is that the Bears may want maybe a low first rounder, maybe a high second rounder. Falcons right now are waiting to see if Calvin Ridley will re-sign with the Jacksonville Jaguars, which would be a big move because then they would get a second round pick from that. If not, they'll get a third. Some people are thinking the Falcons could go in a direction where they give up a third and maybe a pick next year, maybe a second and a pick next year, and that will probably be good enough to get the Justin Fields deal done, right? People feel like the fit is great. You know, somebody made a great point. I can't remember his name right now, but he said, think about this with Justin Fields for people who are maybe hesitant to embrace Justin Fields to Atlanta. Remember Drew Brees in San Diego before he went to New Orleans? Nobody remembers that because when he got to New Orleans, he got weapons, he got a coach, he got all the things that he didn't have in San Diego, and he became an all-time quarterback. Now, in saying this, I want to preface this by saying I'm not saying that Justin Fields is about to become a Hall of Fame quarterback. But the thing I'm trying to say is that everybody knows if he comes to Atlanta, he has a better coach, he probably has better coaching and better weapons across the board than he had in Chicago. So in terms of talent, the talent has been upgraded here in Atlanta, which means you should see improved play from here in Atlanta. Also, don't forget the Falcons have a quarterback coach, 3 assistant quarterback coaches, and an offensive coordinator, and a pass game coordinator. They clearly have prepared for whoever they're bringing in to give him plenty of support, to give him plenty of needed guidance and coaching. You can't be afraid of coaching. I'll never forget what Mike Tomlin said. He said some coaches in the league are afraid to coach guys. That's why they don't draft guys, because or don't sign certain guys because they don't want to have to coach. Justin Fields, we know what his issues are. Accuracy can be an issue. Also health can be an issue. He's missed games every year. So clearly, making sure he can stay on the field, making smart decisions. That's going to be the big thing with him if he came to Atlanta. And clearly, like I said, Atlanta has constructed a very strong support system in Atlanta. So for any quarterback, whether that is Justin Fields or a rookie or even a veteran, they'll have plenty of people to talk to, get coaching from, and support from. Justin Fields coming to Atlanta. Obviously, I've mentioned this before in 2 previous videos. I did a rookie breakdown for a couple of rookie candidates and an NFL QB breakdown for a couple of free agent trade candidates that the Falcons could be interested in. And I mentioned in the free agent one with Justin Fields, I said that he obviously has the potential to have a great story that comes from this. Hometown kid, comes back to Atlanta, now is the face of a franchise, and could lead them. The Falcons believe they can be competitive this year. They believe they can make the right moves. They can potentially compete for a Super Bowl. And so the thing is, you have to evaluate and think to yourself, is Justin Fields the right move? And the thing is that with the compensation you would give up, and then don't forget, he only, I believe, his cap hits like 5-6 million this year. It's not that big. So he barely cost you anything this year. Next year, assuming the option is picked up, it'll be like north of 20 million, right? Which makes sense for a lot of fifth-year options for rookie contracts. That's where a lot of money is. That's why it's always an interesting debate. Are you going to pick up the option or not? One thing about Justin Fields coming in that situation too is if he doesn't work out this year, you're not tied to him forever. This isn't one of those things where, like, which I'll mention my next point, where if you draft a quarterback and you get trade away a lot of assets, you're stuck with him. Like, you have to make it work because you gave up so much. Fields, with the amount of assets you potentially may give up to get him, you might not have to keep him 4 or 5 years, but at the same time, the potential is there where if Justin Fields does work out, you can easily just re-sign him to a contract. Now you got your franchise quarterback for the next 4 to 5 years. And so it's really just about how much confidence does Raheem and Terry have in him. Because you obviously want to make sure you have the right quarterback, offensive coordinator marriage connected together. And when you have that, what will this entire offense become? And I think that's going to be the biggest thing. I think for Justin Fields, if the Falcons want to go down that route, the trade route, they have a great opportunity to basically keep a lot of their assets, not pay out a lot of money, and still potentially have a competitive team with a upgrade at quarterback. So it makes a lot of sense to go in the Justin Fields direction for that very reason, because of the fact that you're not having to sell the farm to get him. You can keep a lot of your resources. You can keep, because we've heard if they trade up, again, which I'll speak about more, they may have to give up one of their better players. You don't have to do that with Justin Fields. You can keep the entire arsenal of guys that you want to keep and add to that. Well, again, it's not a lot of money coming off the books. If you trade for Justin Fields, assuming, let's say they keep Desmond Ridder, cut Taylor Heineke, your quarterback room isn't, I don't think that's $10 million combined between the two guys this year for the cap. And for a team that doesn't have to tie up a lot of money into their quarterback position, that's big in today's NFL, just because it allows you to build the rest of the team up and really get the true vision of this team that you want for just the entire franchise's vision of what they want this team to be in the future. So Justin Fields, just from that perspective, from an assets perspective, because Terry Fontenot during his entire time here has been a guy who has not been overly aggressive. That's frustrated some fans because they've wanted him to be more aggressive. They've wanted him to be more aggressive in trying to make a trade and trying to acquire guys, even when the team wasn't one player away. Now they say you're good, they're going to be aggressive. So could this be the start of them being aggressive with moves they want to make? You're hearing about other potential trades they may want to make as well. So that could lead to a more aggressive philosophy this year. And again, let's say you want to go for a guy like Darius Sneed, as we've been hearing in rumors. If you're giving up a bunch of picks to trade up in the draft, then what are you going to have for Kansas City? So Justin Fields may be the best move in terms of keeping assets, having money, and being able to do other things with the roster without feeling like, okay, we've mortgaged our future or mortgaged part of our future to hope that he works out. Now, getting into the rookie quarterbacks, you've heard Steve Weish is the main guy who tweeted this out, really trusted guy. He's been on the show a couple of times. He said the Falcons he's hearing are looking to be aggressive in the trade up. They're looking to get one of the top 3 quarterbacks, which is Caleb Williams, Drake May, or Jaden Daniels. The most popular guy of those names is Jaden Daniels, I feel like. But the thing about it is when you obviously make a move like this, you're clearly mortgaging your future for a guy who you hope works in the league. It's always risky. It's always risky to make a move like that, but it also could work out. If you look at what the Panthers did last year, they mortgaged the future, got Bryce Young. Now they don't have a first-round pick, and they don't have a lot of talent around him. And you're seeing that is potentially the impact of making a move like that, is that you don't have now the resources to get certain players through the draft. A lot of your team building has to be through free agency if you have cap. Now, there's also successes where you trade up and get a guy, and then he ends up being great, and it ends up being worth it. It's one of the most toughest double-edged swords in the league, trading up for a quarterback in the top, because You really have no idea. Another example of a failed example would be Trey Lance. 49ers traded up to get Trey Lance, and now he's not on the team anymore. It's risky because you can think all you want that these quarterbacks are going to be great at this next level, but you don't know. You have no idea. Now, again, like I've mentioned, the Falcons, the supporting staff they have for a quarterback. Clearly, with a rookie quarterback, if they bring one in, they know if we want to still be competitive and try to make the playoffs and maybe go far in the playoffs with a rookie quarterback, we have to make sure we're giving him great coaching, great support, and obviously we know with this offense, they have a really strong supporting cast around him, which I expect to improve as the offseason goes on. So what that means is it's a move that also is that is actually not common within the Terry Fontenot regime. He usually has not been that aggressive. He is always, when he makes moves, he makes a lot of good value, low risk, high reward trades that involve not a lot of compensation. And the reason why he does that is because he likes to keep all his cards. He likes to have all his resources at his disposal whenever he wants to make a move. And the reason why you do it over the last few years like you've done is because of moves potentially like this, to potentially trade it for a quarterback. And I think this would signal to them and to the entire fan base making that move that they truly feel like one of these top 3 quarterbacks in the draft can get them over the hump and they will be great at this next level. Because I said, too, with the amount of coaches they have in the quarterback room, like I said, they clearly wanted to make sure that the structure was there for whoever they want to bring in, potentially at that position, at the rookie quarterback position especially, that they have the necessary resources for them to improve. Because you're going to need a rookie quarterback if you're going to try to compete with them in your first year to improve quickly. It's one of those things where it's like from week 1 to week 2 to week 3, week 4, you're going to want to see a jump from because you're trying to compete. Now, obviously, the Falcons may have a good enough roster where they don't have to necessarily be like fantastic out the gate. Because sometimes that happens. Sometimes, with young quarterbacks in this league, they have to have time to grow. They have to have time to develop. They have to have time to get used to NFL defenses, study more film. Because sometimes we can do all the coaching they want through training camp and preseason, but they truly won't be able to make that next step till they actually play in real regular season football games. And so, again, if you want to make that decision, they have to make sure that they said, if we're going to give these amount of resources to get a guy at the top of the draft, we have to make sure they have the resources that they need to be better and that it will not sacrifice us potentially in our future moving forward, because a move like that clearly can get you fired. Trading up for a quarterback and not working out can get you fired. You saw what happened to Frank Wright in a year. Kyle Shanahan, luckily, has always had such a strong team that the failure of Trey Lance has not affected it. They were just in the Super Bowl this past year, which is great for them because he hit on a 7th-round quarterback. But for overall, I think it's going to be very important to see what the Falcons want to do in that spot. And the thing is with the Falcons when it comes to the trading up option is this actually going to be a very difficult move to make. Chicago probably is going to want a historic offer for that first pick. You're hearing that the Patriots' plan is to sign a veteran, draft a rookie quarterback, trade Mac Jones with that third, and then they're going to want to draft one the 3rd pick. So it feels like that probably is not an avenue the Patriots are going to go down to stick to that plan. So the only team that you could maybe even consider maybe thinking they would be very much willing to listen to offers is going to be Washington, and that just depends if they are in love with Sam Howell. If they're not, they're probably keeping that pick. So your options to get into the top 3 if you're the Falcons seem slim unless you basically mortgage your future. Like you have to basically give up 1st-round picks the next few years, 2nd-round picks, 3rd-round picks, maybe a good player just to get one of them to say we'll take that deal. If it's one of those things, if they were one of those teams where like we want to move down, then you may be able to give up. Obviously, you still give up a big offer, but obviously the team is wanting. If they're not wanting to move, you have to offer more just to get them to consider it and then potentially move. So, and listen, we've heard Ryan Poles from Chicago mention, he's listening to offers, and that's what you'll do around this time. I think every team's listening to offers. But at the end of the day, the Falcons, if they're going to make a move like that, they have to make sure that they can get the guy that they want. And you got to make sure you hit because, like I said, you're mortgaging your future making that move. And then lastly, if they go to free agent route. Now, Zach Klein from Channel 2 Action News in Atlanta is a guy who doesn't always tweet out about potential things that could happen with teams. Sometimes when he does, It sometimes ends up being right. He actually has a pretty good track record with that. So he's a credible source. He won 92.9 a game and mentioned that the Falcons, when they had conversation with Arthur Blank about a quarterback, that they feel like they can win with a veteran quarterback. They feel like Arthur Blank said, do whatever you need to do. If it's a veteran quarterback, do it. And so he said the name that he's heard is Kirk Cousins. Now, I know when Falcons fans hear that, they may not be ecstatic about that. I mean, Kirk Cousins is the guy who has never been in the Super Bowl, a guy who's always been viewed as he chokes in prime time, a guy who just people think he's a good quarterback. He can give you good numbers. You can win games. You can get to the playoffs, everything. But he may not be good enough to get you to the Super Bowl, right? Because the Vikings have had some really good teams while he's been there, and they haven't been able to get over the hump. So the question is, if they go the free agent route, what does that look like for the team? Now, if you go Kirk Cousins, the rumor we've heard is that Kirk Cousins wants a bunch of money, especially because he's been coming off fully guaranteed contracts in Minnesota. So he's going to want $35 million fully guaranteed. So that's a big cap hit immediately that you're giving him. And then you're signing him to a short-term contract. And if he wants it fully guaranteed, you're tying up a decent bit of your cap into a guy who is not your long-term answer, which I think the regime is hesitant to do, in my honest opinion. Now, it depends. Again, with the talent of this roster, they may feel like, you know what, we are good enough roster-wise that Kirk Cousins can be our quarterback, and we think we can make the Super Bowl. Because that could definitely be the case. But in the grand scheme of things, I think that's unpopular just because, like I said, the reputation around Kirk Cousins. Because you also could pursue Russell Wilson, but we'll see what that looks like. That situation's forever changing. And so those are the only two guys in the veteran quarterback free agency class that you really see as potential options for the Atlanta Falcons when it comes to a free agent quarterback. It's one of those things where if the Falcons make it, it probably won't be the greatest, fans won't be the most happiest about it, I'll say that. But it's a move that, like I said, if you get Kirk Cousins, you don't necessarily become uncompetitive. You probably should be a good team. It's just a matter of Kirk Cousins' limitations, and are you okay with that if you're the regime? Are you okay with that? Do you think you can still get to where you want to go with him playing quarterback? And then obviously that can open up the door for potentially drafting a quarterback later in the draft. I mean, I know there's been a lot of J.J. McCarthy rumors. Falcons maybe sign a quarterback, draft a guy to sit behind Kirk Cousins. That obviously is a potential situation that could happen. We'll see as the time goes on. That is something that they decide to actually do. But it's one of those things where if they go in that direction, you don't have to give up any draft assets. So you keep all your assets draft-wise. But obviously, you're just tying a little bit more money into him, which the Falcons have cap room. They'll probably have some other roster cuts. They cut Jonathan Smith the other day. So they'll have cap. But then, obviously, like I said, it's just, do you want to tie that amount of cap into a player that's short-term and may not be good enough to get you over the hump? That would be the question you have to ask yourself when thinking about a decision like that. So these are all potential decisions. Now, right now, we are in the NFL Combine, right? And Brian Poles has said that if he wants to move Justin Fields, he wants to do right by him, which a lot of people is the reason why a lot of people are connecting to Atlanta. But also that potentially they want to try to get that deal done before free agency, which is March 14th is when the first day of the league year starts and free agency begins. So I think, but I could be completely wrong. But so do you want to go in that direction? And yeah, this is March 13th. Just want to go check. So yeah, March 13th, free agency. So if that move is to come about, then clearly that means the Falcons would have to have a deal done in the next 2 weeks. That means the rumors of the deal currently in the works is probably in the works because you want a deal done before the trade deadline. So when the trade deadline starts, the trade happens, makes it official, and then Justin Fields and the Atlanta Falcons will become reunited as a quarterback franchise combo. Or you could wait till free agency obviously gains and then go after Kirk Cousins. And that can just easily be done within the first week, 2 weeks of free agency. I mean, if Kirk Cousins really wants to go in Atlanta and Atlanta really wants him, they just make the call. What do we got to do to make this happen? And you make it happen. Or wait till the draft, which means teams could obviously make a move before the draft, but teams leading up that week before, if not the day of, are usually who get into the negotiations about trading up in the draft and If that's the case, then we'll see if the Falcons in those first 3 picks make any moves. So all of these potential options are on the table for the Atlanta Falcons, and it'll be interesting to see what direction they decide to go in when it comes to the quarterback position. But guys, leave your thoughts down below on what you think the Falcons should do. Should they trade for Justin Fields? Should they trade up for a top 3 pick? Are you comfortable giving up everything for a pick? Are you wanting to go the veteran route and go Kirk Cousins and maybe draft a quarterback later in the draft? I love to hear y'all guys' thoughts on that. And I appreciate you guys tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube if you want more Falcons content and like the video. It's your boy Bryce Lewis. See you next time.